Irish Parliament. And following a vigorous campaign led by Irish lawyer Daniel O'Connell, Westminster passed the Roman Catholic Relief Act in 1829, removing most of the disabilities imposed upon Catholics. Now, the Irish Catholic community found itself, well, look, the Anglo Irish community found itself in a liminal position. No longer able to rely on the British government to protect their interests, many leaned toward Irish nationalism. Hello, welcome to Dark Academia for Insomniacs. My name is Breezy. I will be your host, and today we are going to be talking about Irish Gothic literature. Um, I am so excited to be talking about this because I am also Irish. But I also love Gothic literature. Like I really do. Like is one of my favorites, especially Southern Gothic, which I talked about briefly before, and I loved it, especially in A Rose for Emily. Oh my gosh, who doesn't remember A Rose for Emily? But if you're new here, hit that like button or the bell for notifications. Please subscribe. Help a girl out. Um, but you're probably wondering, why am I talking about Irish Gothic literature? Well, I can't sing. I can't dance. Well, I can sing, but I'm not gonna ruin your eardrums with that. I can dance, but no, who am I kidding? I can't dance whatsoever to save my life. Only dances I fully know too well, Cupid Shuffle and the Cha Cha Slide. I'm a millennial, sue me. I have a podcast for a reason. Duh. Anyway, um, but today, if you're new here, hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications. Also, please subscribe. Help a girl out. At the time of this recording, it is November 12th, 2025, and I promise you, we're going to be talking about some dark academia. And I have a special project in mind that should be coming out here soon. There's actually going to be a couple episodes after that, which I'm excited for. Now, you're probably wondering, what episodes will I get begin guest on? Well, if it's a topic that I know people will be, if my friends would definitely love to be on, I will definitely get them in a heartbeat. But reality is though, we are all busy, we're all human, and we, life's chaotic, and that's just the harsh reality of it. I do work basically 2 jobs. Well, technically one. That one doesn't really work me as much now. I'm hoping to find an office job. So 2026, I'm manifesting this to be my year, coming up year, please. And I want a good year, 2026, not a terrible year like these past 2 years you've given me. But anyway, what is Irish Gothic literature? Well, Irish Gothic literature developed in the 18th and 19th century. Most of the writers were Anglo Irish, the period from 1691 to 1800, and it was marked by a dominance of Protestant ascendancy. Now, Anglo Irish families of the Church of Ireland, who controlled most of the land, and the Irish Parliament, which was almost exclusively Protestant in composition, passed the penal laws effectively disenfranchising the Catholic majority for most politically and economically. Um, and this began to change with the Acts of the Union in 1800 and the con- concomitant abolition of the Irish Parliament. And following a vigorous campaign led by Irish lawyer Daniel O'Connell, Westminster passed the Roman Catholic Relief Act in 1829, removing most of the disabilities imposed upon Catholics. Now, the Irish Catholic community found itself, well, look, the Anglo Irish community found itself in a liminal position. No longer able to rely on the British government to protect their interests, many leaned toward Irish nationalism, which itself was somewhat problematic given their minority status. Now, this anxiety found voices in the literature, and the Irish Gothic developed in the 18th century, 18th and 19th centuries, a period in which the Anglo Irish communities found themselves viewed neither sufficiently English by the English or not sufficiently Irish by their Catholic countrymen. Now, the Irish Gothic novel reflects on the Anglican response to the historical conditions and allegorizes the concerns of the minority population who, rightly and wrongly, perceived themselves under the threat of the native Catholics, whom under maintained their precarious control. And also the exercising of or exorcisms where repressed anxiety is a characteristic function in the Gothic fiction. Now, Irish writers were often turned to Gothic for images of narrative and which will lead them to enable them to find new ways of articulating a stable identity in the midst of tremendous change. Now, early Irish Gothic fiction tended to present Catholics as the strong, if not diabolical, um, other. Now, later writers such as Joseph Sheridan Lee Fanu, Fanu explored post colonial concerns regarding his own class by depicting them simultaneously as the causers and sufferers from the own colonial misdeeds. And this idea was broached by Irish Anglican priest Thomas Leland in his 1763 philosophical history of the Ireland from the invasion of Henry II, which was criticized by both Anglicans and Catholics. Damn, imagine that. Now, among the characteristics of the Gothic literature are gloomy settings, ruined castles, suspense, and past that will not be in the past, and they were in the hurt ignited to the precipitous extremes of peril. Now, authors such as Regina Maria Roche was born in Waterford and lived in Dublin before moving to England after her marriage. Her 1798 Gothic novel Claremont is arguably the definitive text of the Gothic novel craze during the 18th and 19th centuries, and a best-selling author in her own day. Her reputation was later overshadowed by of Anne Radcliffe, who to whom she is often compared. While there are many similarities of their work, Roach did take her heroine in Safe Haven in the idyllic natural settings and surroundings of the city. Another Irish Gothic author is Charles Maturin, and he was the curate of the Church of Ireland. And his first three works were Gothic novels, and he is best known for his novels Melmoth the Wanderer, which Devendra Verma described the crowning achievement as a Gothic romance. Now, another one is Sheraton Le Fanu. Um, and this is a leading writer of many ghost stories of the Victorian era. The son of the Dean of the Church of Ireland, as a teenager, he experienced firsthand the disturbances of the Tea War, and in the protest of the policies enforcing the tithes on the Roman Catholic majority to keep up with the Church of Ireland. A meticulous craftsman, he turned to Gothic's focus on external sources of horror in combination of psychological insight and supernatural terror. He specializes in a tone rather than shock effects and often leads to important details and unexplained and mysterious. Now, in the 1864 novel, Uncle Silas plays nostalgic variations on the themes of Anne Radcliffe's and Charlotte Bronte's as the innocent heroine of the Emperor of the old, dark, and charismatic probate guardian, an uncle with designs on an inheritance. Another example is Bram Stoker. Why does that sound so familiar? Well, Stoker was born on the north side of Dublin in the Black 47, the worst year of the Great Famine, and he was later attributed to the prolonged characteristic illness of the widespread con- contagion following the famine, and he later became a theater critic for the Dublin Evening Mail, which was co-owned by Sheridan Lee Fanu and LeFanu in 1872. Camilla's was an important influence on Stoker's. Can we guess it? Can we guess it? Did we guess it? Did we guess it? Dracula. And Stoker later became a personal assistant of actor Sir Henry Irvine and business manager of London's Lyceum Theatre, which Irvine owned. Also, Elizabeth Miller said that Dracula successfully combined folklore legend and vampire fiction in the conviction of the Gothic novel, and the ship that brought Dracula to Whitby was the only dead captains left, hands bound to the wheel, echoes the coffin shifts of the famine era. And the lands in the early 1880s resonates with the Count traveling in coffins containing his native soul. Another great Irish Gothic author, Stephen Arata, who sees the novels, well, not really an author, but he saw the novel's cultural context reflecting the growing domestic unease over the majority of the imperial colonization, and several critics described Count Dracula in the context of the Anglo-Irish landlord, um, sucking the reference from the land. And we can't talk about Irish Gothic authors without talking about this one. Who do you think I'm going to talk about next? If you said Oscar Wilde, congratulations. You are correct. Um, but Oscar Wilde was born in the south side of Dublin, and he was the grandnephew of a Charles Maturin, and his parents were Anglo-Irish intellectuals who often hosted salons at their house. Among these whose attendants were antiquary George Pertwee, poet Samuel Ferguson, Sheraton Le Fanu. The picture of Dorian Gray was Wilde's only novel, and published in 1890. Robert Macron describes it as an arresting and slightly camp exercise of the late Victorian Gothic, and the characters Lord Henry Wotton serves as Ma- Mephistopheles. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce that. I do apologize in advance. I have terrible names. But some more. What about Catholic authors, shall we? Well, there is Gerald Griffin, and Griffin was born in Limerick, and his father was a farmer who assisted in peasantry in the repression that allowed the Irish Rebellion in 1798. At the age of 19, um, and Gerald would move to London and also becoming a playwright, but he would end up working in a publishing house. In 1827, he would publish Holland Tide, or Monster Popular Times, a collection of 7 short stories, which was well received. And the brown man was the beautiful but poor Nora marries a strange man is who is not what he purports to be. Now, the brown man draws on both folklore and Gothic tropes, while Griffin's stories may symbolize oppression in Ireland and explorative. Alien aristocratic class Irish critic Sinead Sturgeon suggests that it is equally suggestive of the internalized Gothic landscape, of a writer haunted by recurring worries of originality, plagiarism, and inability belatedness. Another Catholic author would be James Clarence McGann, who was a poet born in Dublin, and there's a William um, Carleton, who was a novelist born in the country Tyrone. That is it for this episode. I will see y'all next time as we talk about what are we talking about next time? Oh, weird fiction. It helps when you have a list nearby to help you out. I'm just saying. But y'all have a great day. I'm hoping to get this episode out here soon. So enjoy. Have a happy Thanksgiving if it doesn't come out. but this episode will definitely be out before Christmas.